And when I realized that, like, he is proud of me and loves me just because he created me.
Mm-hmm.
And just because he's my father. Like, that gives me a breath of fresh air that nothing else does.
It's so lame because it's not like a fleshed out thought, but I just hide behind either auditioning to be funny or telling people what to do that's effective and efficient. And it's rare that I get the chance and confidence to be vulnerable.
Sure.
So yeah, I just had to lean into like the gospel.
My biggest fear were the things that I was talking about were two really, really heavy times in my life. And I didn't want there to be anything performative about them. Like, and I didn't want them, despite talking about labels and titles, I didn't want to be defined by them.
Yeah.
And I feel like I've fought the last few years to like not be those things when God was just really like, hey, you are.
Yeah.
And look what I can do through them.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Afterthoughts. This is episode 93, Afterthoughts, where we share our thoughts after stuff. I'm joined with
Profound.
the three preachers from this past weekend. What an honor it is. Chris, Steph, AJ, thank you for joining us today. And we have a packed studio audience with a laugh track. Can we get a laugh track for this episode? It'd be kind of funny. And if anyone says anything profound, we can have like some there's some tears. That would be great, Ethan. Thank you for that. Guys, welcome to Afterthoughts. You all have been on Afterthoughts before.
It's an honor.
Returning guests.
Returning guests, you were here for a moment. And here's a fun fact. So this is just my office, and there is no roof ceiling.
No.
And Chris's desk is literally 8 feet that way. So every single Afterthoughts episode, just know that Chris is 8 feet away working right over there. So you've listened to all of
I have
these live.
listened.
You have been our studio audience.
Yeah.
How does it feel to sit in Ethan's chair?
It's warm.
Okay.
Sorry
Kinda
for the
gross.
smell.
Yeah.
Yeah. Feels good. Feels good to be here.
And tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do for the church.
My name is Chris. I'm the Next Steps pastor at Red Rocks. I love being here, worshiping, and helping people serve.
Nice.
It's funny. I'm just going to address the elephant in the room here.
Please.
Ryan, you gave a sermon 2 years ago about not needing to audition.
Yeah.
And I feel like I always want to audition in a platform like this, or like be funny or be clever. But I'm just so content and happy to talk about what we talked about this weekend
Heck
in
yeah.
a very like positive
Let's
way.
go.
So
That's awesome.
yep.
Thanks for listening to my sermon.
Yeah, you got it, dude.
Taking it to heart. Yeah, it's so real though. And when there are microphones and cameras, there's something that happens where you're like, I need to impress. I need to be funny. I need to be thoughtful. And so that was really well said.
Yeah.
Here at Afterthoughts, we just hang out and tell our thoughts after stuff.
We're just real.
You know, what's funny is on like all the bios when it's like so-and-so and Ryan hosts the Afterthoughts podcast. And it's always like something profound about like the intersection of like faith and culture and whatever.
Yeah.
And then we get together and it's like, no, it's just our thoughts after stuff. That's like our way of like
thoughts.
not.
We're just thinking out loud.
Yeah.
Anyways, AJ's here. You may remember AJ from Answers with AJ.
Correct.
Yeah.
Also, I feel like anytime we talk about politics, we bring you on to talk about that.
Yeah.
Longtime listener.
Long time listener.
AJ, tell us a little bit about yourself and tell us how you feel about being on the Afterthoughts podcast.
I mean, this continues to be the peak for me. Anytime I get to be on the Afterthoughts podcast is just a true highlight in my timeline. But yeah, I'm AJ. I do operations here at Red Rocks. I don't have an elephant in the room. Maybe a mild giraffe. Like I think I semblance a giraffe, maybe.
Nice.
Yeah, I think that doing Answers with AJ when Kayla's out of town is always a great time.
Yes.
So
Thank you.
yeah, glad to be back.
Thanks, AJ. And Steph, who you may remember from such episodes as the Valentine's episode or the Valentine's episode part
Number
2.
Ethan
And
promised that we'd be brought back, and here I am.
and now here you are. Now, do you sit on this side of the table for the Valentine's
I
episode
do.
or
This
that
feels
side?
a little weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is
Strange over there,
a whole
right?
new world.
Whole
You didn't
different
want to
view.
sit in Ethan's seat?
No. Mm-mm.
Yeah, that
Nope.
didn't feel right.
Nope. I don't even like driving in his driver's seat of his car. It's just really a musty
Yeah.
Yeah.
presence.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Steph, tell us
Kinda.
a little bit about yourself and what you do for the church.
I am wife to Ethan Matott, mom to Zeke and Ray, and I'm the special needs ministry lead here at Red Rocks. So I get to be a part of a team that works with people with special needs in the church. That has grown the population here, which is really cool, from ranging to kids all the way up to adults in our church that have different disabilities and special needs. And we get to just hang out with them and make sure they get to experience church and then serve and get plugged in. So it's really
So
fun.
cool.
Yeah.
Much more on that in a second. All three of you preached this past weekend, and I'm really excited to ask you questions about it because you absolutely crushed it.
Thanks.
And this is honestly, so much of this podcast is like we never really get chances to debrief our sermons anymore. And so this space serves as a really fun opportunity to do that. So we're going to just be doing that today. I want to ask you some questions about the experience, give you a chance to dive deeper into anything you want to dive deeper into. But first, everybody's favorite portion of Afterthoughts.
My
Kayla is
favorite.
back.
Welcome back,
Kayla,
Good
real
to have you
quick.
back, Kayla.
Real quick, before you ask us questions, this is
Okay.
Questions with Kayla.
Thanks.
We have a question for you.
Oh,
How was your trip? Where did you go? Tell us about it.
it was awesome. I went to Pawleys Island, South Carolina. That is about 30 minutes south of Myrtle or an hour north of Charleston along the coast. And yeah, it was just good family time there for a week. My dad put on he called it the Quid Pro Quo Games.
Okay.
Wow.
It was a 3-day or 4-day, like stacked games. He had a pamphlet of a schedule.
Wow.
So it was like 3 p.m. cornhole tournament. And then it was like tiki toss and bocce ball, like all this stuff. And
Yep.
so it was just fun that he
That's
poured
so
a lot of
fun.
time.
Was it team based, or were you all out for
Both.
yourselves?
So he did individual scores. So like there were some games where it was just by yourself and you get a prize. And then there was also team. So I was with my husband Logan, and he's very competitive. So it was like we
Oh,
have
yeah.
to win.
Did you guys
Yes,
We
win?
that's
did
an
win.
You
understatement.
did win.
Shout out to Red Rock Sports.
Red Rock.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sports,
Yeah.
that's
How
why.
many of you and your family were taking part in these games?
There was 4 of us. So it was like Logan and I, my brother and his fiance, my 2 cousins, my mom and my uncle, and then my dad was like the coach or head.
Seems like that's more than 4.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
how
there's
many
4
was there?
teams.
4 teams.
4
Oh,
teams.
yes.
Oh,
Got it,
okay,
got it,
so
got it.
Okay,
8.
okay.
Yeah.
8 of us.
Double.
I was like, I'm not
4
going to
times
count
2.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. 4
Okay.
teams, 8 people.
And you got the gold medal.
We did.
that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm. So
There
it
Good
you
was
work.
go.
Yeah.
Well done.
Fun
Will there be like a
times.
return next year? Like, do you guys have to defend your title?
I think so. He was like,
Okay.
now we just tweak it, and this will be like a continued thing. So
3
love
days
that.
is aggressive
Yeah.
in the best way.
Oh
That's
yeah,
like
there was
really
like
impressive.
a time when we were like, we just want to chill.
He's like,
no,
no.
want to hang out on the beach. He's like, no, bocce ball
Nope,
time.
it's day 2.
yeah,
But I do love that he did it over the course of 3 days, so you could like rest and
Yes.
reset
Yeah.
There was-
overnight.
yeah.
So like if you were having an off day, there's no
Carb load
excuse because you
every
could come in
night.
the next day.
Was there any
Uh-huh.
like scheming or
Oh, yeah.
like trash talk
oh yeah,
during the
trash
night,
talk.
trying to get in their head a little bit?
Cornhole, you're like,
Yeah.
you're not good, can't even throw, can't even
Yeah.
do that. Oh, yeah.
Brutal.
Did
Good.
you
You're
guys
not
now?
good.
Did you guys still watch?
Really well. That's very witty.
Did you guys
Great
still
trash
walk away
talk.
as family, or like is the reason why this is annual because you need a buffer to get over the loss? And
I guess this will just be like a tradition now. It's like,
but
who
you guys are on
gets-
good terms as you exited
Oh
the
yeah,
beach house.
yeah, we did. Yeah, we're all on
Good.
good terms. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
it was like participation awards too. Like everybody got an award
Aw.
type thing.
But what matters is that
Families
you won.
hurt, but
Yeah, yeah.
I guess we got the best award. I don't know. But
All right.
was
That has
nice.
been questions for Kayla.
Yeah. Okay.
nice.
Let's move on.
Love that new
Yes.
segment, Ryan.
Just kidding. Kayla, what do you got for us?
Okay, well, Steph, in your sermon, you had said, well, like the big theme, or I don't even know, metaphor that you used was 2 truths and a lie. And that was funny. But then I was like, you guys all know each other really well. Like your 2 truths and a lie would be really hard because
That's
we're
funny.
all like
Oh.
family here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to do that, although I thought
Okay.
that would be fun.
What would we?
So since I just got back from vacation, I do have a question. What is y'all's ideal vacation? that you
Ooh.
would love? If you got to, choose, maybe money's not an option. I don't know. Maybe it is. Let's make it more realistic.
A realistic
Yeah.
vacation
Realistic.
Because then I'm like, y'all
Okay.
would go to like Bali and spend whatever, but
Yeah.
let's make it more
Mm.
that you
realistic.
could potentially do
Yeah.
next summer.
Yeah.
Who wants to go first? Am I first?
Yeah, it sounds
Sure.
like it.
Okay. This feels too easy of an answer, but an all-inclusive beach vacation is
Yeah.
just kind of always my dream.
Where?
Mexico.
Mhm.
I've just had
It's just the best.
great times at all-inclusives there. Specifically the place that we got to go to last year for our anniversary. There's like also a spa where you get to do like a cold plunge and a sauna. And so you start the morning with a little workout, do a sauna, cold plunge routine, go to their wellness juice and smoothie bar, and then just have unlimited great food and sleep on the beach.
Nice.
Sounds
That
really-
is just my dream.
Uh-huh.
So that's mine.
Crushed it. I go on my dream vacation every summer. It's not a dream, but like, this is gonna sound. I set it really high, but every single summer, the first week of June, I go to a lazy beach town in North Carolina with my childhood best friend, and we do sunrise on the beach. We do breakfast together. We do lunch on the beach, sandwiches with chips in the sandwich. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Meat and cheese.
Oh yeah.
Texture.
Exactly. We take an afternoon nap on the beach. We go to dinner every night at 5:00, early bird dinner.
Yes.
And then we're in bed by 9, and we do it for 5 straight days. And it is the best. It's like nothing fancy over the top, but it is the best 5 days of my year.
Love
Yeah.
that.
I love that.
Oh.
I cannot wait until June 1st of next year to do it all over again.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's. Ooh, Universal Studios, Orlando.
Heck
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like some adventure, some
Yes.
roller coasters, and then it just wears you out throughout the day.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
It's a great
That's
vacation.
awesome.
What
Yeah,
about,
great
have you heard
vacation.
of that new one that they're opening? It's like Epic Adventure. Have you heard about that one?
No, is there a new Harry Potter park in it though?
I
Like, are
don't-
they adding a third? Is it in Florida?
Yeah, it's in Florida. It's
Yeah.
in Orlando. I think it's called Epic Adventure.
And it's not a part of Disney
And
or.
It's one of them.
Okay.
And it's like Super
Got it.
Mario World. And they
Oh.
have roller
Oh,
coasters.
Zeke would
Zeke would
love
And
love
it's
it.
really, really cool. And we need somebody to fact check me on that. But you're looking up, Kayla.
Yeah.
But I think it's called Epic Adventure. And
There
it's
you go.
very
Yeah.
similar to Universal. So it has
Okay.
like the
That
real
sounds
roller
like Chris's
coasters,
kind of vacation.
not like Disney
Yeah.
World stuff.
I think my wife would agree with both of your style of vacation. So
Okay, that's an interesting thing that
Yeah.
Ethan and I feel like had to figure out on the honeymoon. It's a very important thing. Like, are you the same vacationer?
yeah.
Vacation
And like
type.
with friends, like when you're
Yeah.
going on a friend trip, like, are you the same? I looked out. Ethan and I are both very much like, don't give us excursions, don't give us activities. We
Right.
want to plant our butts and just relax.
See,
you were
like,
lucky.
I would say, yeah. That's not been your lived experience.
That's not quite yours.
But the thing is,
Okay.
I think why those 5 days are most important to me is because I am an excursion kind of person, and I
Uh-huh.
am like a avid traveler throughout the
Mhm.
year. So I use
you need
those
that.
5 days to
Oh.
reset.
Okay.
But if I'm going to a new city I've never been before, like don't stop, don't slow down. Like let's figure it out. We got to see all the things.
Yeah.
But those 5 days are
yeah.
That's your time.
where I hit reset for it.
All right, here's your
What'd you
fact
find out,
check.
Kayla?
You were right. It's Epic Universe.
Epic
Ooh,
Universe.
that's a much
Um,
better.
And it's a
title.
brand new theme park in Universal Orlando Resort,
Okay.
southeast of Orlando. And it opened in May.
Wow.
And it has like Super Nintendo World, How to Train Your Dragon, the Wizarding World of Harry Potter,
There you go.
and
Okay.
the Dark
Okay.
Universe.
amazing.
But
That's
it's
now
like
my bucket
all
list.
the like Frankenstein, like those types, like the Dark
Yeah.
And
Universe.
it looks, you should
Epic
look at
Universe.
pictures. It looks really
looks-
cool. Like
sounds
I was like,
epic.
how can I?
Nice.
Yeah.
Thanks.
What's like the
Welcome.
youngest age that's appropriate for?
I'm
7, 42
I
inches
don't know,
tall.
but it looks
probably.
awesome.
I don't know.
I
just
want to take
guessing.
Zeke.
I want to go. Yeah,
I
you
think
should.
Okay.
Ethan would be
Heck
fine.
yeah.
So
really good.
That's your next vacation.
Perfect.
Nice.
What about you, Ryan?
I also get to go on my dream vacation every single year. Fortunate for that. My friends Matt and Jess live in Kauai, and they have a room for me.
Nice.
And
nice.
2 weeks from now, I will be there.
Heck
Oh,
yeah.
And I'm
Streaks.
I'm very much like unplug and turn my phone off and just sit and read on the beach. It's nice because like he has to work during the day. He's a therapist, and so when he has clients, I'm just at the beach, and then when he's done, we go surf, and then we make good food, and that's about that.
And Matt and Jess are
Nice.
great people to vacation with.
They're the
best.
They're just
They're just the best.
The last 2 years, you've done like some kind of excursion while you were there. Do you have something planned this year?
Oh,
So the Nepali coast is like the north side. It's the most beautiful place
hike.
in the world. 2 years ago, we hiked in. We did like a 2-day hike in and out, and then last year we did a 3-day kayak trip. I think this year we might go helicopter, which is like it's way different, right? Because that's just like an hour instead of like a 3-day thing.
Yeah.
Right.
But I want to see it from the air,
That's cool.
and so
That's awesome.
That's really
Good
cool.
for you.
All right, my last question, and this can then tee you off into the next part of this, is what has been your favorite moment in ministry? Maybe it was from this weekend, or it could have been just like working in ministry, because you've all been working for some time now. So I want to know.
it's a really good question.
Chris.
Yeah.
Gosh, I mean, my favorite ministry moments are so tied to what I talked about this weekend. Watching people plant themselves in their calling and experience the growth and the freedom and the excitement and the joy. There's nothing better. There's nothing better than that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I have like a highlight reel running right now of like all of my favorite moments, but I think it's never it's not often that we have like a real time ministry moment. Like we usually see it happen like later, or we hear about it later. I think singles conference was really, really cool because there were just so many people there in real time being like, this is what I needed. Like, I feel so seen by this. And we often like hear about that later, but like that evening, there was just something about it to like see it happening and see a population that feels like behind or sometimes left out. And so that was really, really cool. So I think that's this week probably one of my top 3. But I think we just get to witness so many cool things that it just ask me again next week and it'd probably be something different.
Yeah. I'd echo that for sure. I haven't spent as much time working in ministry. I've been around it obviously for a while, being married to Ethan, but in this short time, I think as for me, as our special needs ministry has grown and getting to the moments that are coming to my head are very individual moments with specific people or specific families. Getting to build relationships over time now with some of our families that have been able to really get more involved in the church and get opportunities that maybe they wouldn't have otherwise. We've seen just over time, like these seeds that have grown into plants, and now they just keep getting water. Like in our kids that get to come, and they've experienced a lot of just growth and I don't know. And the other things I'm thinking about are just individual conversations that I get to have with people. Whether that's, them going through really hard things, challenging things, but just getting to work in a place where I get to one-on-one like see what people are going through, talk with them through that, listen and see change or just see how God works in people's lives. It's a very general answer, but no, that's
That was great.
Good.
There's a guy named Scott Brugman who he got to help start the church way back in the day, and has just been like a pivotal, just foundational like part of Red Rocks. He told me years ago, he said one of the best parts of ministry, one of the most fun parts of ministry is when you start discipling and empowering and seeing other people succeed. And he was talking to Ethan and I about like how pumped he was to see Red Rocks Austin happen. And he said, you're like, it's going to be fun. The whole thing is going to be fun. But when you start seeing other people step into their calling, he's like, just wait and like, see how like proud you are. And so this past weekend, honestly, is one of my answers to that. Kayla is watching the 3 of you step into the sermon so well and like workshop it so well and pray so much and like let the sermon work on you before you even got up on stage. Watching you 3 do that was just like really, really cool for me. And so with that, how are you all feeling? Tell me about the experience. What was it like?
I was talking with my wife, Emily, about this. It's such a heavy, like back and forth. You're like, this is such a privilege and a big responsibility to share the gospel. But then when you try to control it so much, you're not letting the Holy Spirit do it. And then it's like, is this becoming performative? But then when you let that go and trust God's moving it and his voice through you, you still want to feel prepared in that. And it's a real like shift back and forth of trusting that whoever's in the room needs to hear what you have to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's God doing that. And after 5 services, you say something a little bit different at each one.
Mm-hmm.
And I would like walk down the steps after and be like, oh, I totally missed what I said at
Yeah.
8 a.m.
Yeah.
I didn't even say
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So recovering from that was really interesting to debrief because a title I give myself a lot is analytical and strategic, and to have that be so fluid
Mm-hmm.
throughout this was a really cool growth opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny. What out of the 5, what was your favorite?
Oh.
And did you have one where you're like, oh, that wasn't it, or I missed things there? Like, how did that play out? Because repeating the same thing 5 times is a weird
It was
experience.
so weird.
Yes, the 12 was a challenge. Because I was like, have I said this already?
Yeah.
And then am I just like, is this I hate that I have to say, but like, is this just the performance? Because I've done like, where's the emotion in it? And so to watch you, Ethan, and Doug be able to emote so well at that 5th service,
Yeah.
genuinely, was a huge like wake up call where I'm like, oh, this is so much more than just,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
okay, let's do this. It's the 5th one. Then I can go
So
have lunch.
strange.
Yeah.
You have it's content that you now are so familiar with, and then there's people, a whole new crew of people in the room who have never heard it.
Yeah.
It's so strange.
And I feel like what's really interesting, because I've noticed it, we always sit in a service throughout the weekend. We typically sit in through the 4, but like, well, I'll pop in throughout the weekend in the other services, and it always feels a little bit different, but it is truly mind blowing how different it feels up there
Oh yeah.
from each service.
Yeah.
Like there is a different crowd and a different atmosphere in each and every one.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that was something like I knew, but then to get up and experience it, I was like, oh no, this is very different. And how you can just feel things shift in the room, depending on the service, was just very, very, very interesting.
Some things that you say on Saturday night and everyone just like naturally gets,
Yeah.
you say it on Sunday morning and nobody responds.
Not all.
And you're like, oh, we need to like back up a little bit. Like
There's
start with the
that
basics.
like moment of panic in one service particular. I won't call them out, but where you're standing up there looking around, you're like I wanted to apologize. Like, I'm so sorry I'm here. Like, I'm so sorry. Like, I was looking out at people's faces. I was like, I don't know what I've done, but you don't want to be here. And and you get this moment of like, Ethan has always told me like, it's one of the most isolating feelings.
Yeah.
And he doesn't say that in like a complaining way, but just like it's a reality. And there was one service this weekend that I felt that. And I was up there and it was like, and when I felt that, I looked over to the left where, all of our team typically can be found, but I locked eyes with both of you at one point and then I was able to breathe because that was so cool to have that solidarity of the 4 of us doing this together.
Yeah.
I felt safe in that moment, but for a hot second I was looking around and I was just like, oh my gosh. Like, but I didn't feel that at any other service. So it really is like a different crowd every time. And just the reality of that morning that hit me and trying to be like, okay, Holy Spirit, then you're going to have to guide me in what each crowd needs because they're not the same and they don't need the same thing. And balancing that of like, but I can't just rewrite a whole thing, like.
And what's interesting
wild.
is I know the crowd you're talking about, and it's typically the crowd I get the most positive feedback from.
Yeah.
And there's like a lot of life change that happens.
Yeah.
And so,
Just trusting that.
It's really the craft or like the art of being able to stand on a stage and impact the room that you're in, and like we always say, be a thermostat instead of a thermometer, but then also not be impacted by what you are feeling back is really, really difficult. It's hard for me. Doug and Ethan are both better at it than I am. Cause I think I'm very sensitive to what's happening in the room. And so I resonate with that.
It's wild.
Completely.
I think it's also so funny. I just am so like my gravitational pull is to the right side of the stage. And so I just felt like one of the first times I ever did announcements, I think Doug was like
stage right?
Yeah, stage right. Doug was like, hey man, how's the right side of the room? Just because I never addressed the left side. So I'd be like talking to the right side of the room and then be like, that's right, I got to talk to these people too. And that was a funny, just like pull back. And then I'd catch a familiar face where there were like times where I would say the same thing passionately, and I was doing the same motions, looking the same way at all 5. It was very funny.
It's
Very
so
funny.
fun.
Yeah,
And if you've
yeah.
never been to our church, it's a great auditorium. It's very shallow and it's incredibly wide.
Yeah.
And so there's like there's so many degrees.
Yes.
It's like 180 degrees pretty much that
Yeah.
you have to
Yeah.
you have to get to.
Yeah.
And so it's a lot of turning
Yeah.
that
Can I
goes
say
into it.
something that it feels very random, but you saying that it is so wildly helpful to pick out a few familiar faces for sure, but there's a few people in each service that just like they make you feel like you're okay. Like whether it's a
Yeah.
response they're giving or just when you see someone taking notes or like really looking at you, like that is so helpful.
It's so
Yes.
And
helpful.
not like asking everyone like please respond because it's about, but I'm just throwing that out there. It's like, okay, I'm not alone in
No.
this.
There was
right
like there
now.
was two moments that I remember. Like one part I was like getting emotional and I was like, okay, pull yourself together, AJ. And I like looked out and locked eyes with someone and they were like,
Yeah.
and I was just like in that moment.
It's
And
cool.
then during the 12, I got really emotional and I turned around to like catch my breath and I made eye contact with Beach and he was like, you got this. And I was just like, okay, I do. And it was like, when you like when somebody just affirms you in that, like that little like just push. And I feel
Yeah.
like the 3 of us really experienced this week. And like
Yeah.
even in our group texts as we were trying to like prepare and like the verses we sent each other, the prayers that we were praying over each other, it was like, had I done this alone, I wouldn't have.
Yeah.
Like there was just no way.
Yeah.
But knowing that I was doing that with my closest friends and people that like have covering over me and that truly like were experiencing the same thing I was, there was something to that just made
Yeah.
it so much more like palatable. And I just knew that like I remember the first time I asked her, I was like, how are you feeling? You're like, I'm nervous. And I was like, you? Because you're just so like well-spoken and easygoing. And I was like, there's just no way. And you're like, yeah, like
Yeah.
the weight of this, I can feel it. And I was like, okay, so that's okay that I feel this.
Yeah.
Like it like gave
Mhm.
me permission to stand in the feelings of everything that came with preparing and getting ready for and
Nice.
doing it. So
Were there any moments? Let's dive a layer deeper. This is for any of you. So you prepare so much. And by the way, if you haven't listened to their sermon, go listen to their sermon right now. All 3 of them. The whole idea was, what's your why? And all 3 of them got up and it went Chris, Steph, AJ, and they talked about like really preach your life message, but use that to explain like, here's why I do what I do.
Mhm.
And I feel like everybody was walking out of there like, oh, and now I got to think about like, why do I do what I do?
yeah.
And so it's super profound. You gave us so much to think about. You also prepared so much
Mhm.
for your 10-minute piece. There's this weird thing that happens sometimes when you preach where it doesn't matter how much preparation goes in. Once you get up on stage, it hits a little different. Did any of you have a moment, an unexpected moment on stage where you felt like the Lord was speaking to you or through you in a way that you didn't expect?
I had a couple moments. One that comes to mind was during our like run through before we ever
Hmm.
talked on stage in the weekend. The 4 of us were in the auditorium just running through everything, kind of a dress rehearsal. And that week I had just felt really in my head. I've been in a journey this whole preparation process of being in my head. It just messes with you in all kinds of ways. But that week I was feeling just really down on myself, really frustrated with myself, disappointed, regret over mistakes, and just all kinds of stuff were coming up. So I got up to talk about it. And in one part of the message, I talk about how I've learned the truth that God's love is not earned and I don't have to put myself best
Right.
self forward all the time. And
Right.
and I started saying that out loud and couldn't quite get it out because it was like, Steph, is as much as you've prepared this and you're preaching to the room that this is the truth, like you have to continually come back to this truth and let it sink in for you over and over and over. And I found myself like again frustrated, like, well, God, why do I still not get this? Like, why is this still not sinking in? But that day, as I was saying this to everyone else, I felt God just being like, this is a process and you're going to keep, like, you will have to continually come back to this truth about who I am.
Yeah.
At some point during the process, you asked me, Ryan, like, think about who you're preaching this part to. Like, who is it in your head? And I looked at you, I was like, me. Like, me. I don't know anyone else that needs this, but I need this. Like, I'm trying to just make myself believe this. And I felt that. I felt that a lot this weekend. So that was one. And then the other was just the nature of the tragedy going on in the world right now, and in the world for sure, but also here in Texas, and people impacted by the floods, and all of that was happening this weekend as we're preparing for this. And you go through that weird headspace of like, whew, this is real. And then you start to look at the things you're about to say and be like, is this insensitive? Is this like, and there was a moment. So the other part of what I talk about is how joy is not circumstantial. And I was literally kind of panicking Saturday before the 4 o'clock, because I was like, I feel like such a, like, I don't want to be a jerk getting up there and being like, you can have joy even in your worst circumstances, knowing what was going on. But then like, I went to the bathroom and literally sat there and just prayed and was like, God, if I need to not say this tonight, please let me know, because I don't want to hurt people. And instead I felt this like rush of like, this is exactly when they need to know this. And so I feel like I spent a portion of time saying stuff that I had never even put in my notes or anything, of just like, no, even in these circumstances, like I still believe this truth that I'm sharing because he's proven that to me. And then it brought me to all the times in my life that that's been true, that I can find his joy even in the worst of my circumstances. And then I felt this like empathy for the people in the room or the people across the world going through hard things. And I'm like, nope, this is still true. And so it all just was taught to me over and over and over this weekend.
So well said. It's it's so easy to say, like, we live in a broken world. There's a lot of pain. But when the distance closes, and it's like right down the street, and it's like our friends of, or at least friends of friends, it becomes so real.
And it's like, do we really believe what we're saying from the stage?
Wild.
And I had to ask that, like, God, is this? And he was like, yes. Yes, it is. Go say it.
That, getting to that point, do I actually believe what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's where all of the best content comes from.
Yeah.
But it is a marathon to get there.
Oh my gosh. It's exhausting.
Really well said, Steph. Either of you have?
There's this kind of, not a tangent, but an analogy just came up. Have you guys ever played in bands, AJ and Steph?
Like in band?
In a band.
Yes.
Yeah, like music.
Steph was a drummer.
Yeah, great.
Middle school
You
worship.
had your time.
Yeah.
Middle school worship.
I think
we
it's...
didn't go to Battle of the Bands or anything. But
I won freshman year, junior year, senior year.
Yeah, you did.
Subtle plug.
I think there's something when you are like making music with people, and I played the drums, and then you just kind of like, you create what comes out of you, and then you're not worried about remembering what you would play because that's what you did. That's what you naturally do. That's what you naturally feel. And so I just felt that a lot with the internalized content. But then to your question, like, yeah, I can hop up here with a page of notes and I got this. But then you like start to feel, oh, what if I add in some flair? Or like, what if I change something or try to control it? And that's where I would find myself getting lost, and I needed to recenter. So I just needed to say that, of like, anytime I tried to make it about me or come up with something clever to say or audition, I don't care if it flopped or no one received it. I was like, that was me putting too much effort in this moment.
So funny.
It's like trusting, oh, God's got this in me for a reason. So what really came out that I didn't rehearse was emphasizing, and I'm so passionate about it because people watch us on stage and they're like, cool, you guys are in vocational ministry. So easy for you to talk about all of this. I was like, our God is way too good to give us a command and not equip us to do that. Like in every season he has us in, every place. And so harping on that and believing that through my experience and through my, you know, I wrestle with purpose in ministry because life changes and we're not exempt from that at all. That was a very cool moment where God was like, can you just say this, please? Can you just like remind people that I give them a task, but I'm like with them through the way, even if they don't feel it.
Really, really important.
Yeah.
That's great.
Did that answer your
That was
question?
great. That was a great answer.
Cool.
Yeah. AJ, do you have one?
No
No pressure if you don't.
No, I think there was like a few cool times where like you came down after one service and I looked at you and I was like, did you feel that? And because it was just like, it was like every single service was a little bit different. And there was one that I don't remember which one it was, but I remember saying to you, and I was like, did you feel that? And you were like, yes, like that was it. And then I came down the same service and you turned to me and you go, did you feel that? And so it was like, did we hit our stride? And it was really, really cool to, I think I even texted you on Saturday morning and I was like, hey, I'm not spiraling, but also in my spiral, I have these questions because I think we prepared so much and we talked about this for so many weeks. It was just like you could still get up there and it not land. And my biggest fear were the things that I was talking about were two really, really heavy times in my life. And I didn't want there to be anything performative about them. And I didn't want them, despite talking about labels and titles, I didn't want to be defined by them.
Yeah.
And I feel like I've fought the last few years to like not be those things when God was just really like, hey, you are.
Yeah.
And look what I can do through them.
Yeah. Right.
And that is something that I think really came true to life with me through this process, is that instead of fighting against not being those things, God is like, just let me use them. And I hadn't yet turned that over fully until this weekend.
Yeah.
And I think like the biggest moment of me for that happening was truly like walking away from the 12 going, oh, wait. Like, it's not just the things that I'm saying, like, this really is yours. And I just, like, I felt like an actual physical release. And I know we talked in our group time this morning and I was like, I've been so emotional over the last 2 days after just saying the big scary thing out loud and being able to share that. And what that's like actually done in me and how I feel like it is changing and like affirming the things that I know, like, you know, things logically, and then you like feel things in your heart and sometimes those things do not connect. And I feel like this was the tie for me to tie those things together. And I think that's been a long time coming.
It's
so cool.
It's great.
Well, the illustration we use all the time is having that like buffalo spirit,
Mhm.
where we say it all the time, like when a storm's coming, cows run away from it, but buffaloes charge it, right?
Yeah.
And like this weekend was such a beautiful picture of you. There's a storm, and by the way, like all of the balancing statements, like grief is so, it's such a mysterious thing. Like it can't be rushed, right?
Yeah.
But I think you felt this like divine permission to
100%.
charge it.
Yep.
And it's almost like by the end of the noon, you were like running through the storm. And so what has it been like on the other side? Is it strange?
Yeah. Well, it's really funny that you bring up the buffalo thing, because earlier in the week I was talking to Steph and, you know, I've heard you guys say this many times, like if you're preparing a sermon, like be careful what you preach, because like life is really going to challenge you in that.
Yeah.
And I feel like all week I just faced challenge after challenge and trying to figure out like letting go of control in so many areas of my life, and knowing that I was walking in to have this conversation with just a couple hundred of my closest friends up there. And I like had a moment where I was in tears with Steph and I was like, I just don't know what to do here. And she goes, well, you're a buff now. Like you gotta, she goes, you gotta charge the storm. And I was just like, okay, great. What does that mean?
I said a lot of us are forced to be buffs and we don't want to be buffs, but you are a freaking buff
Yeah,
now.
she's like, you're a buff now.
Yeah.
And
That's so good.
so I like went and had a couple of conversations, and then it was just like a cute little God wink. I came back to my desk a few days later and she had drawn me a picture of a buffalo but like, you got this. And so fun that you're tying that together. But I think what it's felt like is, it's just like mentally, I knew I didn't have to be ashamed of failing as a mother and failing as a wife.
Right.
Like mentally, I knew that. And then, but I think getting up there and just walking through it and just saying this and things that I've known to be true, but may have not felt to be true. And then like walking off after the 12 p.m. and being like, no, those are true.
Yeah.
And to sit in that this week. And I've just been like so weepy because I've been able, like, I just feel like the loving like presence of the Lord just being like, I've been telling, like, now you know, like, sit in this with me. Like, yes, you've heard it. Yes, I've said it to you, but now you see it and I want you to feel it. And I think one of the prayers that I pray really, really regularly is like, God, I know that you love me, but I need to like feel that, especially in these moments. And I feel like that has just been like the warmest embrace over the last couple of days of it being like, okay, now sit here and stay here, because it's very easy. I'm just like Chris, like super analytical, super logical. Like, what's the next thing? What makes sense?
Yeah.
And some of these things don't make sense. And so to like actually feel the sense that it started to make has been
Yeah.
Long time coming.
great.
So
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Is that uncomfortable
oh
for you?
yeah, 100%. 100%. I am
Wasn't a
like,
leading question at all.
oh my
How
gosh.
does that feel for you?
Yeah.
I put the A in analytical for sure. And being vulnerable is the hardest thing for me. Like it is the most difficult thing. Vulnerability is just so tough. Like if you talk to anybody on my team or any of my closest friends, like I don't like talking about feelings. I don't like talking about how something makes me, I want to talk about your feelings. I want you to be vulnerable, but I do not want to sit in that discomfort at all. And so to stand up there and talk about the most vulnerable things in my life was literally like one of the most challenging things I think I've done. And and it's interesting because the response I've had is people are like, oh, I only knew you as this like strong, have it all together person. And I'm like, well, that was intentional. Like, I don't want to talk about the things that are difficult or hard, but like, I can see you in it. And to even like cry in front of people is just like, people are like, oh my gosh, something must really be wrong because I don't do that because that's a level of like, I've gotten really far and I've been really safe controlling my circumstances and not being vulnerable. And so for this to be the opposite and to take off that armor and just be like, hey, this is who I am was woof.
Oof.
Can I just say,
Wow.
Yes.
2 years ago, we had a meeting while you were a volunteer and you were like, I think I have to tell you something about me. And you shared your story, but with armor up and a very like, these are the facts of the story. So to watch you do it from stage with so much emotion and vulnerability, impressive.
Thank you.
Proud of you.
I don't know if we're doing shout outs today, but I do have to shout out Morales on that because he really challenged me. Like we did our run through and I got really emotional when we did our like little dress rehearsal and I was like, I don't want to say that. Like I literally broke from talking and was like, I don't want to talk about this. And you guys were like, okay. And Ryan, you were so like, you were like, hey, you don't have to. You don't have to. Like this is, you do what you feel is right. And afterwards I ran it through with Morales and was like, hey, like I need to do that again. And he was like, okay. And so when I got done, I was like, do you have any feedback? And he literally went, I mean, it's great. And he was like, but you're not allowing anybody to see who you are. And if you want to keep that armor up, that's fine. But also what's the point? And I was just like, what do you know anyway? Like, okay, you preached
Shut up,
you're
Morales.
like,
That's what I would have said. Get out of here.
Yeah.
Kayla doesn't even like your pie.
You're a 7 out of 10 pie maker.
But I was like, wow, you preached last weekend and now you're all profound. Cool.
Yeah.
But I really like, I let that sit with me and I was like, he's right. Like I can continue to carry that armor and share like I shared with you and just get up there and be very callous and cold and be like, hey, so these are the two things. Or I can be really, really true to that. And that's what we did. So
King David in the Old Testament is always known as the man after God's own heart, but he has like quite the life that he lives, right? And we all know his like inciting incident is Goliath. And what's really interesting about that story is right before he's about to go out and like face Goliath, which is like really what got things going in his life. Saul gave him his armor and he wore it and he was like, I can't wear this armor. Like this isn't me. This doesn't feel right. And I've always felt like there's a biblical principle to we naturally as human beings have armor that we put on as a defense mechanism, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's actually good. It's actually like us protecting ourselves. But I feel like one of the indicators that like a new level of ministry is about to begin in your life is when you can go, okay, but you know what? I don't actually need that armor anymore. I can go face this giant and just be who I am and trust that God's going to work through me. And I feel like this weekend was like you setting aside that armor in a lot of ways.
yeah,
so
for sure.
that's really, really cool. Are there, for the two of you, when it comes to titles in armor, do you have, is anything coming up for you in your life as you listen to AJ's part of the sermon? Do you have a title or a thing that you tend to hide behind when it becomes like, I'm afraid to just like be myself in front of people? You've talked about auditioning a little bit.
Yeah.
Either of you have anything on your hearts to share?
The first thing that comes to mind is something I'm really thankful for recently, actually. I think for a lot of my life, the title would probably be like hurt or like angry or
Mm.
kind of like I talked about this. I've struggled with things like depression, anxiety,
Yeah.
hurtful circumstances in our in my family life and different things like that. And I think for a lot of time that kind of was this title
Mm.
and didn't fully allow me to experience God's freedom and healing because I kind of felt safe under that title because it kind of allows you to justify a lot just in
Yeah.
your life. It just felt kind of safe. And
Yeah.
I feel like this year, following the January fast, I have gotten to experience healing, like deep healing in areas of my life that I didn't even really know to pray for or ask for. And so on the other side of things, I've started to see like things that would have typically come up and be a very natural title of like, oh yeah, that hurts me, or that always causes me pain, or thinking about that thing. And now I don't feel defined by that at all. I feel I've experienced like this deep level healing
Yeah.
very, very recently to where and so when I was listening to AJ, it was like a really special moment for me to just like be so thankful to God for like, God, you literally redeem. Like you don't just change circumstances because sometimes you don't like you can redeem anything.
Yeah.
Like things that we
Yeah.
don't even know to ask for
Yeah.
or to even like articulate to you, you can literally redeem. And no matter your age, no matter what stage of life, there were certain relationships and things in my life that I never thought would be redeemed. And it's like him being like, it doesn't matter when I can do it.
Yeah.
Like I can do it. And
Yeah.
so,
So cool.
yeah, it was just like a very profound moment for me to just be thankful to God and who he is.
The ages in scripture are like almost laughable
Yeah.
when you look at them. And like, so Moses was 80 when at the time he like started all that, you know? And we could go through.
Yeah.
And I think one of the points that God's trying to make is like, oh no, I'm outside of all of this.
Yeah.
Like I can move whenever.
Yep.
That's really profound.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
Do you have one, Chris?
Yeah, AJ, when you did your dress rehearsal prayer, I was just like practical. That's the title. Like practical. It's so lame because it's not like a fleshed out thought, but I just hide behind either auditioning to be funny or telling people what to do that's effective and efficient. And it's rare that I get the chance and confidence to be vulnerable.
Sure.
So yeah, I just had to lean into like the gospel
Yeah.
heavy up top. And I don't know when that came to fruition in my preparation of this, but I was like, I have to share for the room and for me, like that I am always broken and I have to remember where my peace and joy comes. And it doesn't come from just being practical or auditioning. It's so you just like, you rocked my whole perspective of even preparing for a sermon or how I lead our team here. Like, oh my gosh, am I just hiding behind a practical Pete? Which I even said that as a defense mechanism in the 10 o'clock service. I was like, oh, now I have to give a next step because I'm practical Peter. And right when I said that, I was
loved
like,
that so
was
much.
so good,
I
though.
laughed probably louder
it
than
was
anyone
good,
in this
but
place.
deep down, I was like, shoot, AJ is gonna get up here and like challenge that like head on. So yeah, it was just really interesting.
And now people call you Peter
Yeah, they do.
in the lobby.
Yeah, they do.
Oh man.
Oh, it was good.
I for me, one of the titles that I feel better about myself when I'm contributing. And so I get it like in my own way, like at the church when I'm moving the needle significantly, like a couple of days after a sermon, that's when I'm at like the most amount of peace because I'm like, I helped the team. But then by like Wednesday, I'm like, oh no, like what am I contributing? And so for me, I'm as I go on vacation, that's one of the things I'm challenging myself with is like, okay, so for an extended period of time now, I'm going to be on a beach in Hawaii. So I'm not going to be like, quote unquote, like moving the needle for the church. And like everything in me is like, but I could like, maybe I'll come up with like a series for the fall, I'll just like workshop it. I'll just text Doug and Ethan real quick, like I'll contribute a little bit, almost as like a drug,
Yeah.
And so I resonate with that. It's a title that is there's that efficiency is a gift of mine, and it's a beautiful thing until it's not.
Yeah.
Until it becomes an idol in my life, right? And so I don't know, for the person listening, summertime can be a very strange season because we are supposed to rest. Like I feel like God is creating summer to let us exhale.
Yeah.
But because so many of us are wired like me, we actually fill it with like way more things, right? And so if there's anybody watching who just needs permission this summer to exhale a little bit, one of the things that Doug always tells me is that it actually is the inverse of what you think. And so you think while you're resting, the best thing you could do is to contribute a little bit, but actually the more intentional that you rest, the more God will work.
Yeah.
And that's like really, it's a lot easier for me to preach than to practice, you know? Cause it's like a hard thing. It's like a hard, like armor that I want to hide behind. And it's very vulnerable for me to get to the end of my day and be like, I didn't like necessarily contribute anything in the way that I typically do.
Yeah.
I just sat on a beach and read a fiction book all day, you know, and it was great. But deeper down, there was a piece of me like ringing this like alarm of like, do something productive, you know?
Yeah.
And so letting that voice down, I think is a really important thing that I'm learning. So
That's really good.
I get that. One of my favorite things you said, and we don't have to get into the backstory behind it, but you were talking about a conversation you had with your mom and something that she said.
Oh yeah.
And you told her, you said, well, Mom, that's easier said than done.
Yeah.
And her response was, I know, but that doesn't mean we stop saying it.
Yeah.
Fire.
Yeah.
Can you dive into whatever's coming up for you?
Oh yeah. All the health issues my mom's been going through, and me being like, well, first we use a acronym a lot when we coach people to lead and be with people and share the gospel is ESPN, encouragement, scripture, prayer, next step. And I'll always want to like start with the next step. And so I was even trying to do that for my mom of like, yeah, but you could do this and you could do that. And she was just so sitting in the scripture and prayer and faith versus doing something. And even when like medicine wasn't working or like the cancer came back, and she's like, yeah, but I have faith. God'll move, like this is for a reason, or he'll heal me. And when I said, yeah, that's way easier said than done, that was me like copping out. Like, okay, yeah, easier said than done. Like, but what can we do? And for her to just say, yeah, but that doesn't mean I stopped saying it and believing it. I was like, oh, my faith is so small.
Yeah.
My faith is so small.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. That was a powerful conversation. I didn't prepare to say that.
You
That
didn't,
just
right? You didn't say it on Saturday.
No, I think I only
That's
said it at
only
the
that
8.
service.
At the
Only
8
that one.
o'clock.
Yeah.
I wrote it down.
Yeah.
That was cool.
very
It's really,
Yeah.
really cool.
Easier said than, how often does easier said than done become a cop out? Right? It's like, it doesn't mean that we stop saying it.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that we stop believing it. It doesn't mean we stop declaring it. It doesn't mean we stop living as if it's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is hard for me.
So
Yeah.
I think the another piece that got me was your first truth.
Mhm.
And you already touched on it a little bit because it was preaching to you too. I forgot how you phrased it. God's love is not conditional, but you said it better. How did you say
His
it?
love is not earned.
His love is not earned.
Yeah.
And you brought in Romans 3:23, all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. How have you had any conversations with anybody since preaching that, where anybody else has like resonated with that? Because I think like if somebody asked me, what is the number one thing that if our church just got that one thing, our church would be so much healthier and everybody would be situated in such a better way. I think it's that truth, is that it's God's love is not earned.
Yeah.
Can you say a little bit more about that point? And if you've had any conversations since preaching it?
Yeah. No, I think in a lot of us, and we're all similar in some, I think our team here is similar in that way of like, we've got a bunch of like go-getters. We've got like tenacity, like we just want to get stuff done, help people, and that's incredible. And that is a gift. and God has given us all these unique gifts to build his kingdom. That's an action, right? But I think in our culture too, in American culture, like that can quickly, easily blur into the idol of accomplishment and the idol of, just earning. And we've all kind of voiced that where for whatever reason, we feel this inner little voice always saying, you have to perform, you have to earn, you have to accomplish. And yeah, I talked about how in my friendships with people with special needs specifically, I think that's why I've been able to just like take a breath of fresh air when I'm around them, because that is such a struggle of mine to constantly. I've thought back, and I think when someone says, I'm so proud of you, there's literally nothing in this world that someone could say that means more to me. Like, for whatever reason, you could probably analyze that. But when someone says, like my mom prayed for me this weekend before I spoke, and at the end she said, she like looked at me and was like, I'm so proud of you. And I was like, well, now I can't speak. That means more than anything to me. Ethan told me, Steph, I'm so proud of you. And I was like, you could never give me a flower or anything for the rest of our marriage. That meant so much. But because of that, I step back and I'm like, man, that means I live a lot of my life trying to just have people be proud of me. That is like my biggest drive. But then that becomes the idol instead of seeking the creator and resting, knowing he is. And I know that logically as a parent, even I look at my kids who are young and contributing nothing to this world other than their goodness
and their humor.
They are very funny and very cute
kids.
and very sweet. But I'm like, I am so deeply proud of them and love them so unconditionally. And that doesn't make sense. So I know that, but it's like in the few moments I've really had with experiencing my heavenly Father, really tell me that he's proud of me. And I have felt that when I've been in his presence, and there's been specific times that I can look back and really be like, man. And when I realize that, he is proud of me and loves me just because he created me and just because he's my Father, that gives me a breath of fresh air that nothing else does. That for me personally just lets me live in peace and not that constant anxious striving state. And that's just something that I will probably always have to come back to and wrestle with and learn and relearn and relearn. And but I think, if we can all and that's so much easier said than done. It's so much easier.
But does that mean we stop saying it?
But we don't say it, and I'm I'm 34 and truly this year is the first time I'm starting to really allow myself. But again, to that title, you also have to allow yourself to believe that.
It's like in Good Will Hunting, it's not your fault. And Matt Damon's like, I know. And then the repetition, and it just hits.
And
armor start to,
and receiving that from God is.
But and that's a good way to say it. You also have to be willing to receive that.
I also like the way that you framed it. You read it and you were like, and then you were like, that means everyone falls short. And then you literally went, I hate that.
That's right. So good.
Because I do. I hate, I hate saying no one's perfect. No one's perfect. I'm like, no.
But we try.
Duh. I want to be. This is a tangent, but in the last year, my son Zeke, who's 6, he was really mad at himself one day, and he was just like, "Oh, I messed up this," and it was a game or something. And I looked at him, and I was like, "Zeke, no one is perfect. You will always make mistakes." And he looked at me, he was like, well, Jesus is. And I'm angry at him because why does he get to be perfect? And I was like,
period.
Oh boy. Well, we're gonna, but that's how I feel.
So phenomenal.
I know. He was like, why is he the only one that gets to be perfect? That's not fair. But I'm like,
it took me 30 years to be able to articulate that. So good for Zeke to be able to
Zeke
do
is
that.
way ahead of us.
And then I'm like, oh
so
gosh,
good.
now I need to help my son who already has this issue of wanting to be perfect, whatever. But
That's so funny.
anyways, I think that's ingrained in us from maybe a young age of just I want to be perfect. And so to answer your question too, I did get one specific text from a mom who has kids with special needs, who I was thinking the text would be like, yay for our population and stuff. And her thing was, she's like, this week I really caught myself striving to earn and living in that. And it was such a beautiful reminder that I'm loved no matter what. And I was like, oh, I'm not alone. Thank you. So Yeah.
So good.
So perfect. Yeah. So your lie at the end, those two truths and a lie. The lie at the end was that this population needs us, and you reframe that to we actually need each other.
Mhm.
And what's so beautiful about that is like the sermon felt like it was all leading up to the lie, but the lie was actually everything was leading back to the first point
Yeah.
the entire time.
Mm,
You know,
cool.
um,
I didn't think about that. That's cool.
per that text, right? She's the mom is going like, yeah, I actually need that.
Yeah.
Can you just, because I know you're so passionate about this topic, say a little bit more about that lie, and why we at Red Rocks like want to take this whole ministry so seriously?
For sure. Yeah. Really the whole premise behind that is there's I'll have to look it up. Maybe we could like link it because it's a really helpful resource. Link it in the
Description.
I don't know. Description. Anyways, there's this framework of the 5 stages of culture change within a church, within an organization. And we move through these stages and hopefully end at this final stage of co-laboring, of contributing together with people with disabilities and special needs. But the norm, we start off just thinking like, oh, you start off in kind of this pity stage of like, oh, they're weaker, they're lesser than, so we feel pity for them. That's kind of where a lot of people, and not out of a malicious heart, but out of a heart that truly is like, oh, I feel for what they're going through. And then as you move through these stages, you get into this beautiful, I don't know, this balance of like building friendships with people in this population and seeing their worth and their value. But then it can easily stop at this stage where it's service. Like they're the object of my service. I need to serve and support them. So you see their value and you see how incredible they've been created by God. But then you're just like, I just need to serve them because they're the ones in need. And again, that's not bad. The truth is, like, we should absolutely serve and advocate for and do all that we can for people who are in any sort of need. But when we move past that stage and we get to see, okay, they've actually been created with something that not all of us have been, and they have something to contribute. And really digging into if God made all of us in his image and we're all so vastly different, then there's a piece of his image in each of us. Each of those pieces are needed to create the whole church. And so I think it's just, for me, that even happened in the last 2 years. And I've literally done this, worked with this population my whole life. And I'm like, I stayed in that. I just want to support them. I just want to serve them. But in the last couple of years, I've just like been like, whoa, like I really need them. Our church really, really needs this population of people because we're not going to be whole and we're not going to be able to build his kingdom effectively and efficiently and all the ways that he wants it to be built if not all of the pieces of his body are represented.
So well said.
Yeah.
AJ, last question for you. You went with John 4, woman at the well, in the conversation between Jesus and the woman, which I thought was so brilliant. Can you tell us a little bit more about why you took that route and what that story meant to you?
I think it was really hard for me when after my divorce, like that was truly, we did all the right things, right? Like we never used the D word and like until we did. And I felt like I had done everything right up into that, like, married the right person. Like we went to premarital counseling, we went to church every Sunday. And so like, it felt like such a cultural burden of being like a divorced person and that I truly like I'd already failed at motherhood, even though that wasn't my choice. So this felt like such a double whammy. And I was just trying to figure out, like, you hear, especially like in the Christian culture, you just hear so many like negative things about divorce, and you hear with 50% of our population being divorced, like people are just like copping out and all of these things. And I for some reason that was like such a big identity factor for me. And I was just like, you don't see, like, I thought success is like not being divorced. I thought success was people being married for 30 plus years. And so it was just for some reason, it was so defining for me in ways. It was hard because that divorce was humiliating. And there was also like, I wasn't prepared for it. And there was just so many things that like just felt really hard. And so when I was in the depths of that grief, which is what I talked about, I was just like, God, like, how nobody understands. Nobody goes through this. And then he was like, actually, the woman at the well did.
Yeah.
And I remember, like, I read that story so many times and read that she was divorced. Cool. But it wasn't until I was like so desperately seeking like my identity and seeing my identity in someone else that I reread that story differently. And like reading that she had been divorced 5 times. And I made the joke this weekend, like, oh, Real Housewives and like Elizabeth Taylor numbers. But I think what really, really hit me after cause I asked, I was like, God, show me myself in scripture. Show me somebody like, because it's very easy to feel alone and like isolate yourself in a silo. But I was like, I want to be able to see that, like, you know how I feel. And Jesus wasn't married or divorced, so he couldn't. And so like how, like where I can say like, you've been betrayed before, but like, show me here. And it wasn't when I read that scripture and was like, oh my gosh, I felt this way. She felt this way 5 times.
Wow.
Like 5 times she really, really saw it and thought it was going to be different. And it turned out the same every single time. So her level of disappointment and the place that she was sitting in where she was like, okay, like just, we're going to try one more time and try, like, I have been retired as a result of my experience, but she got back out there 5 more times. And then like, as we talked about, scholars say it was because she was barren. Like that's even worse, like just another title. So I really chose that scripture because like, that was the first time I can remember since my, like losing my daughter and, being divorced that I was like, I felt so like identified. Like I just really identified with something so deeply. Like we can talk about, people are like, well, Job lost his family and was like replaced another family. I'm like, I don't want another family. Like there's other things in the Bible that I think that I could reference, but that one just struck me so deeply because I really sat and I'm sure like the pain and the shame that woman was feeling. And then when I like did deep research and the fact that Jesus like sought her out. And the fact that he was like, hey, no, I see you. And if you want to keep looking for that in other people, you can. But what you'll find in me, like I am he, that just was so. And I felt like I could have talked about that forever. Talking about it for 2 seconds in 10 minutes was, just very, very surface level. But that to me was just so, I will never forget when I really, really read that through that lens for the first time and was able to go, okay, I am the woman at the well. And I can take this really horrible situation and be bitter about it for the rest of my life, or I can let it change me and I can be like that catalyst that allows me to go and like tell other people about it. And I can stand here and I can be in my divorced women's group and be like, hey, we're not damaged. Our situation didn't go the way that we wanted to, but like, let's show Jesus through our experience and be better about it. And so, that's why it was easy to pull from there.
It was so good. It was a brilliant way of talking about it's actually our weaknesses that we're strong because that's where God can work through the most. That point you had about how she became this like crazy evangelist. What'd you say? Castaway to catalyst is like, that's what you do. That's who you are. But it also like you could feel it in the room. Everyone like, oh yeah.
It's cool.
That was it. That was really, really good. Chris, I have one more really serious question for you.
Oh boy.
I've been waiting for this actually.
A VLOOKUP. Corporate guy, corporate Chris, practical Pete. What is it?
What
Can
is
I just
it?
say though, you said VLOOKUP up there and all of us, or not all of us, but a few of us in the front row were like, yeah. And Ryan leans over and goes, guys, what's a VLOOKUP?
I tried to lock eyes with Ryan. I was like,
No idea.
what?
No idea.
So
explain
funny.
it to us, man.
Tell
what
us.
is it?
Tell them
Let's say, paint the picture. It's Tuesday morning. You got your coffee. You sit down in your office.
You open up your spreadsheet.
You're like, oh, how are our numbers today?
I'm impressed.
Is it a spreadsheet?
She knows that it's within
It's in a spreadsheet.
Okay. Nice, Steph.
Yeah.
Corporate Steph.
Corporate.
They're corporate Steph. Wow. A VLOOKUP. AJ, correct me here if I'm wrong.
I got you.
It's just pulling different data from different spreadsheets.
And plugging them in together into one.
Yeah.
So it is a command with so Excel.
Yep.
If you will.
Command
You will.
I will.
Yes.
V?
I have a few
That's
times.
paste.
Google Sheets is the new wave. We've kind of left Excel behind. We're now in Google Sheets, but it allows you to take data from a bunch of different sources and pull it into
As in several spreadsheets or several like pages on the spreadsheet.
both. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Concatenate is another big.
Okay,
piece.
this is too much.
Now you guys are just showing off.
Okay.
Cool, we get it. You guys know how to do numbers and stuff. We just make heaven more crowded. You know? I am so proud of all 3 of you. And we could talk.
Wait.
Oh.
another shout out needs to go to Ryan
Yeah.
Wekenman
Yes.
because
Yes, for
literally
sure.
we can talk about, this process and all that, but the behind the scenes of us kind of spiraling and having these wars in our head, you have been that steady, consistent. We've been calling you Coach Ryan, but it's
Mhm.
also almost like the pilot in the plane who's just like, hey,
Yep.
Yeah.
I can feel the turbulence too. Like it's all good, but
Yeah.
I've been here. I know what I'm doing. Like you've been so a peaceful presence.
Yeah.
You've been an encouraging presence, and it's just really, 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 I just appreciate it.
Yeah.
Appreciate you as a friend,
Thank
as
you.
a coach. Thank you.
We could not
Yeah.
have done it without you.
Absolutely not.
Literally. I think
Absolutely
we
not.
tried not to be clear. I
Yeah.
said this up there, but I did tell you no several
Yeah,
times.
you did.
And
You did.
you every time you're like, okay,
Okay. It's
you're going to pray about that. And
It's
I'm
fine.
going to talk to you about it tomorrow. And I
Yeah.
was like, or we're not going to do that. But you were just, and I think just like the text messages and the calls throughout,
Yeah.
like knowing
Yeah.
that, and we know that like we're aware that you guys experience this every week, which
Yeah.
what a career choice. My gosh.
Yeah, I still don't get it.
it.
I feel way more empathy
I
than
don't
I ever
get it.
have
Ever.
for the three of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's an odd calling. Cut it.
And scene.
Got it.
No.
Thank you, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great job. Phenomenal. Go listen to the sermon. And thank you all for listening. Ethan, we're coming up on our 100th episode.
Yeah.
We're gonna more details on that soon. We're gonna have a party. Kayla, thanks for
Hi.
all the questions.
Welcome back.
I'm
Love
so
you.
glad
Welcome
to be
back. Congratulations on your gold medal.
Oh yes.
And
Quid
Quid
pro
pro
trophy.
Quid
yeah,
pro quo games.
yeah,
champs.
and hope you guys start training for next year
Thanks.
because that's very important that we defend those titles because here at Red Rocks we are a bunch of winners,
But we don't carry
And
titles.
titles are everything.
and that is the
G-
most important
G
thing.
rewrites them.
Is the winner.
Yeah.
Winner. No, hey, actually, if you want to win, you win in the kingdom by losing. If you want to find your life,
Yeah. Lose your life, you will
Hey.
find it.
Okay, that's it.